Welcome to Bitter Reality Brewing. Yes, we are doing a thiolized to the max cold IPA. Not lager IPA, not lager pale ale, cold IPA. And this is gonna be extreme, not only with what we're doing, but due to some recent lessons learned, we're going to be using the BrewEasy compact slightly different from normal, and I'll have to explain why. But as usual, don't forget, like, subscribe, keep sharing. If you haven't hit that like button, it doesn't cost you a dime, please, and subscribe. Not asking you to hit the bell. I know some people don't like notifications. I'm there, get it. It definitely helps the channel more than you realize. Definitely appreciate the support. And we hit over 6K, awesome. Thank you to all the viewers, all the subscribers. Thank you very, very much. First of all, there is a huge difference that I learned, and I had to learn because I have never brewed a lagered pale ale, lagered IPA, or a cold IPA. They're different. How are they different? Well, from my understanding, the original lagered IPA was really nothing more than a West Coast malt profile with hops lagered. Now, that doesn't mean it has to be a West Coast. You can do what you want, build your IPA and lager it, it's all good. What the intention of a cold IPA was to either use a lager or an ale yeast at a cooler side, which is kind of weird to me, but it's all good. I would think at the warmer side on the lagering would give me a little bit more of those hops being pronounced over that of doing a cold ale. But yeah, so you can do a cold IPA with ale yeast or lager yeast. We're doing lager yeast and we're using thiolized yeast. And I have 18.5 ounces of hops, which sounds insane, but the key is where I'm putting those. And 18.5 ounces of hops, and we have zero boil additions. I know you're going, where the hell is he putting all the hops? And no, we're just barely over the threshold for diminishing returns on dry hopping. I'm gonna be dropping 6 ounces of hops on the dry hop. So I still have 12.5 ounces, and none of them go in the boil. So if you didn't check it out, I already did a thiolized maxed IPA ale version. Go check that out. It's the same hop schedule, the same hop, dry hopping, everything, same thiolized except for using Star Party, but a very different malt profile. The key is with a cold IPA, you're really brewing a lager, a nice, super clean lager, and then you're going to add either a decent amount of hops or a significant amount of hops. And you want the hops to stand out and be the star of the show. Not only with the star, you want fireworks going off behind it. So the key is you really want the hops to be the center of the show in a lager. Or like I said, you can do an ale, you just do it on the cold side. But yeah, on a lager, that's where I'm going. I'm sticking to the lager. So let me jump right in before I tell you what we're gonna do. And I'm gonna go over the malt profile, which is only 2 malts. We have 9.5 pounds of already crushed, I've crushed it myself, Golden Promise. Recommended is usually Pilsner or 2-row. Golden Promise works too. Maris Otter is kind of a little over the top from what I am reading and understanding, so we're gonna go with Golden Promise. It's probably right at the edge of the top, but it's okay, it's just the way I am. And then we have 3.25 pounds of flaked maize or yellow corn. You can use rice, flaked rice. Flaked rice is actually a little more recommended because the key is you just want a super light, clean malt bill. I did not see anybody recommend adding corn sugar, which would lighten it more, but it would thin it out a little. So I believe that's just the best way to go, is keep it there. I did see that for the rice flaked or the flaked corn, basically they were looking between 20 and 30% of the grain bill. I'm keeping it at 25.5%. It's kind of where I fell. I like round numbers, so you know, it is what it is. But that's it. That's our malt bill. Now, for the hops, we have 2 mash hop additions. We have 6 ounces. We have 3 ounces of Cascade and 3 ounces of Saz. They seem to be the most recommended to trigger the precursors for thiolized and the compounds you're looking for. And there's about 3 compounds out there that really give you all that amazing tropical fruit flavors and aromas. And I'm trying to bring it to the top. The other thing I noticed is that it seems like the jury's still out on how much bittering mash hopping is going to contribute. I think there's a problem there. I think the problem is that when you're adding hops to a grain bill, If that's a very small grain bill, you're probably going to get more IBUs, of course. And if that grain bill is huge, you're probably going to get considerably less. Not just how it's calculated in a normal wort boil based on quantity, but based on it's got all that extra fiber that's going to catch some of those particles, maybe keep it from getting in there. I don't know, I'm not a scientist, but I'm just saying that might be why some of those people are all over the place with how much IBUs. I kept it on the higher side because I didn't want this to be crazy over bitter, but we are shooting for 70 IBUs. So it may be a little less, but we'll shoot for 70 theoretical IBUs. Now for the hop additions, there are no boil additions. We're gonna wait until the very end and we're gonna do a 10-minute whirlpool at 194.4 Fahrenheit? Yeah, 194.4 Fahrenheit, that was what was recommended. And we have 2 ounces of Citra, an ounce of Cascade, an ounce of Chinook, an ounce of Galaxy, an ounce of Simcoe, and half of an ounce of Apollo. And I know everybody's going, why so many different hops? 2 reasons. One, I had to divide everything between this and the IPA, the ale version that I did. And I needed some for dry hopping, I need some for the boil, or actually for the whirlpool, not boil, sorry. But the big key is hops are plants. And there's a scale that they believe it will help add either free thiols or precursors to trigger thiol release. And that scale, based on the crop, could be a little lower, could be a little higher. Where I got it from could be a little higher, could be a little lower. So I kind of went with, just, how do you say, I think it's called hedging your bets. So I might not get way over here, but I won't be down here. I'll be somewhere in this area, and I'm hoping to get the best overall. So that's why I did that. Apollo, why is there only half an ounce? Well, I only had an ounce, so I had to split it between the 2 batches. But yeah, and then the dry hops, I'll go into those a little later. That's gonna be 6 ounces of dry hops because that was 6.5 ounces of whirlpool hops. Then of course we have the LunaCrush. Now for the problems. These are lessons learned from the last brew. I had a problem with the Riptide and I reached out to Blichmann, and a gentleman by the name of Jarrett helped me. There seems to be a small problem with the impeller. As it gets warm, it's rubbing. So he's sending me a new impeller. I don't have it. I was hoping to have it already. I would have done the whirlpool had I received it, but it's okay. We'll do another IPA later. And when we do the other IPA, we'll do the whirlpool with the new impeller and not have the problem. Number 2, and this goes out to anyone who has a plate chiller. I don't believe a counterflow will be a problem, but a plate chiller, do not use it if you're doing what I'm going to do. It's not the hops. It's the lovely, lovely Phantasm Powder. This stuff feels very powdery. It's soft and fluffy, but it's really not. It's like very coarse grit when it gets going. So the problem I had, it's opening up, is that they recommend putting the Phantasm Powder in your fermenter. And at maximum would be about 4 ounces for 5 gallons. When I did my research, a lot of professional breweries said that they were getting better returns on the Phantasm by doing it in a whirlpool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 50-50. I'm dropping 2 ounces into the whirlpool, 2 ounces into the actual fermenter. And some of course, will carry over into the fermenter when we drain it off and everything. The key with that is that what I found is it's from a Sauvignon Blanc grape skin. And when it's dried and powderized, it's not all powder. Some of it is very coarse little chunks. And those coarse little chunks clogged the therminator and were a nightmare to get out because they were tiny, hard chunks. I had to rinse that thing for over an hour and there's probably still a couple little faint pieces in there somewhere. So anyone using a plate chiller, it's not the right tool for the job if you're adding Phantasm Powder into your actual wort because it can clog it. So it's a great tool, it's just not the right tool for the job. Number 2, we normally would do a whirlpool using the Riptide. I can't do that right now because like I mentioned, there is a problem with the impeller and when it gets hot, it expands a little and rubs and just locks up. So that's a problem. So we're gonna do a manual whirlpool. We're gonna use a jaded Scylla, the right tool for the job, immersion chiller, and we're gonna cool things down. Why did I still decide to use the BrewEasy Compact over maybe the Anvil where I wouldn't have to worry about all those things anyways? I felt that this was just the better tool for the job. That's exactly, I mean, the BrewEasy is a wider pot, a little shorter. I just feel it's a better tool for this job. The pump's gonna serve us fine. The pump didn't even have a problem. Once the temperatures were down around 170, Not an issue. It was just the high heat that it was starting to have a problem for any extended amount of time. And like I said, the Therminator, because it's a plate chiller, was clogging due to the Phantasm Powder, which is not as powdery as it sounds. That's pretty much it. I got to get my water brewing salts, throw them in there. We're already at temp. Grains are crushed. Let's get brewing. Sorry that took a while, but there's a lot going on. And yes, I'm drinking water. I already had quite a bit of coffee, as you can probably tell. Okay, let's go ahead, add the brewing salts and get mashed in. I'll put the brewing salts, as usual, up in the corner. And the brewing salts are a little different too. I looked all over the place and yeah, I just kept it nice and simple. I will say there was a fair amount of people that seemed to agree with each other. I think that's telling me we need to get mashed in. We're doing a 150, so for 75 minutes. And we'll go ahead, drop the grain basket in there. It'll probably drop the temperature a little bit. Not too worried. I remember where the feet are, okay. I prefer the feet to the back. It's just the way I am. The way it's up, not near the front, not near the electronics. Let's move this out of our way. And let's get mashed in. Forgot to mix the corn into it, so I guess the corn's gonna go over the top, just the way it's gonna be. I like to blend it all in nice. Okay, that took a lot longer than I expected. I almost, and I know it sounds weird, I almost never get or see dough balls. Almost never. The only thing I did different here was I crushed all my malts last night. They sat in here. I did have them covered. But yeah, I was getting dough ball after dough ball, little small ones, breaking them up, making sure they got broke up, even got a little corn ball. But I took care of it. So let's get the mash hops, toss them in, and start the mash. Okay, there we go. We got 6 ounces. We got 3 ounces of Cascade, 3 ounces of Saz. Sprinkle that over here. Because our recirculation doesn't spray over the top, I'm gonna mix this in a little bit. And we know it can clog the actual grain bag or grain basket, but I did not have that problem with the last IPA that I did the same thing to. So we should be fine. I'm trying not to disturb the very bottom. I know I'm probably disturbing it a little bit. I was letting it settle. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. I'll start again here in a little bit once we get things going. But let's get the recirculation going. We're already kind of a little ways into the mash, technically, just not doing a recirc. It's a little weird. Let's turn this a little, there we go. Yeah, we know we just disturbed the bottom. There we go. For some reason, I wasn't able to get that in with the handle too close to us. Not sure why, but it's okay. Okay, here we go. Menu, mash, profile, there we go. We like that one. Start, back to the home. Okay, we're gonna lower the power. I found 65 seemed to work pretty good. I may have to change that later, but we'll see. Okay, and we'll start the recirc. And right off to the races, you can see. I'm pumping way too much. So we'll bring that bad boy down. There we go, it's coming down. And like I said, I like to keep it right at about 0.5. I recommend it's 0.75, but there we go. And we'll check it in about 10 minutes because we know it'll change. So we'll be here for 75 minutes and I'll do a little stir here and there, which actually it looks like I kind of need now. Some of the hops got pushed up towards the top. When you first start the pump, there's some air in the line and that air kind of played bubbles. There we go. Okay, and we will get a little channeling. I don't know if it matters because it's like I said, it's every 90 degrees, about an inch or so down, so I don't think that really matters, but stirring it up a little bit guarantees that it doesn't matter. Cover that up. Okay, we're gonna be here for 75 minutes. I'm gonna get a little cleaned up and a few things done. I don't know how I mixed my hoses up, so yeah, we got a little shorter hose going on the pump today. Up, and that's it. It's going to 168, it's gonna ramp up. Once it hits 168, we'll lift the basket, do the sparge. I've got the sparge heating up on my induction burner. Works really nice. Seems to heat up a lot faster than your normal burner. It's a good thing. And that's it. Once we sparge, we'll have our boil, and then eventually towards the end, we'll have the whirlpool. I mentioned how much I love having everything so close. I've been cleaning other things like kegs and fermenters while it's been mashing, because it's all so close. Okay, that's it. We're at 168, been there for 10 minutes, and it's time to sparge out. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna turn the pump off. Mash complete, pump off. I did stir it about every 15 to 20 minutes, just the upper half, we'll say. Yeah, super, super clear. We'll fix that with the Phantasm. The Phantasm really does a number on things. Okay, I really don't want to get my gloves wet, so we're gonna see if this silicone is cool enough to pull. It appears it is. It's doing its job. Okay. It's one of the things, always let the liquid out. It's very hot. There we go. And put this over at my sink a few feet away. Looks like I have rice hulls in there, but I don't. So we're gonna let that drip for a little bit, and I've got the sparge water already heated up, and I'll start to sparge. It is sticking to the sides a lot. It looks like it's stuck to the sides a little more than the previous IPA with all the mash hops. Okay, let's give it a few minutes. And there we go. I'm enjoying using that. Sorry for the noise there, but it's been extremely helpful. Okay, I'm gonna kind of squeeze the basket, should we say, or squeeze the grains a little, and that should help it finish its dripping a little faster. Using a plastic spatula, spoon, stir, whatever you want to call it, just don't want to damage the metal. And I'm squeezing inward. I don't want to squeeze it up against the metal, the mesh. The mesh is durable, but you know, you beat on anything long enough, you're gonna have a problem. Okay, we really only need 90 minutes and then a 10-minute, kind of like I'll call it a warning shot over the bow. Okay, so we need to get up to a boil. Let's kick the temperature up there first. Power. Okay, there we go. Get it up to a boil. I'm thinking about the profiles. I think I'm gonna keep it the 90, 15, 10, and 5. The reason being is that 15 minutes is kind of a shot over the bow. Hey, you got some stuff coming up. 10 minutes, you've got 5 minutes, get ready. That way I can put my WhirlFloc tablet in, yeast nutrient, and make sure I have my hops ready for the 10-minute whirlpool. So I'm just gonna go with it. Being lazy, don't wanna sit and change it. Sometimes I need a couple reminders, so it'll work out really well. Okay, we're at 210. I'm gonna call it a boil. I'm gonna kick the boil profile on and get that started. This should start doing a nice vigorous boil here any minute, but I ran the pump. It did pump a little cooler wort in there. I usually run it like twice during a boil for literally, you're talking 2-3 seconds, just enough to flush the hoses and make sure everything that's in there has been boiled at least once. Okay, I'm gonna keep monitoring it. We have 90 minutes and then we'll do a 10-minute whirlpool, manually, sadly, but unless the piece shows up while I'm doing this. Yeah, it looks like it's gonna break on its own. There we go. Give it a little stir. Gotta be useful. and we have a vigorous boil. I know everybody's like, why aren't you doing 60, 30? I'm still learning the system. I want to get really good with it. And yes, I still haven't done the boil off conversion tests and see exactly how much I boil off based on how much volume too. Sometimes that impacts it. Okay, we'll let it go. Okay. Okay, we just got our 5-minute notice. It's the Whirl Flock tablet. Woo. And we'll do a little yeast nutrient. And another thing, everybody's thinking, if you're gonna put the jaded psyllid in, you need to put it in now. Yeah, I know you're all looking at me going, okay. Nice thing about having a sink over there. Been washing the hell out of it. Star sanded, it's all good. Reaction there, that's okay. Basically a teaspoon of yeast nutrient, a Whirl Flock tablet, just threw the whole thing in. I'm tired of breaking those things in half, it's annoying. Not sure why we're getting such a frothiness, but that's okay. I know we have a problem with the impeller, if I'm saying that right, in the Riptide. I'm gonna try to whirlpool anyways at a hotter temperature, but worst case, we go manual and then we start chilling everything down. I've got all the hops. I've got the 6.5 ounces of hops. It smells amazing. I will tell you, when you have a beer, I've learned what you do is you take the empty container from your hops and you flip it over the top of the beer to keep bugs away when you're outside. And every time you lift it up, you're like, smells good. Okay, and I have 2 ounces of Phantasm for the whirlpool. So once we get done with this little last 5 minutes, I'm gonna drop them all in, let the temp start coming down and just start whirlpooling. 194.4, you know, it's gonna go below that and it's gonna start out a little higher than that. I was looking at this LunaCrush and alcohol tolerance is only 9%. We're only shooting for 7.2, so we'll be fine. The other thing is, it's actually the temperature range. It's like right between a lager and an ale. It's 60 to 65. So knowing that I'm trying to push my hops, the aromas, I'm actually going to try to basically push it up around the 64, 63 Fahrenheit. If it hits 65, I'll be fine. It's warning if I'm hitting 1.070, which I think 1.069. Hitting higher than 1.070, you're going to need, yeah, make a starter. Well, I already made a starter and I'm really looking to, I'm still debating. I was thinking I'll just dump them both in because I have twice as much yeast as I need, or twice as much as what you're supposed to, I don't know. A lot of times they tell you double it, but that's not saying I need to double it. Do I put both of them in? Do I put one in? I think I might put one in, see how it goes, and then start a starter on the remaining yeast, and that way I have some more yeast to toss if I need to. I just don't plan on making this again right away. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I was a little fast. And we're done with the boil. I'm gonna start the whirlpool. We'll see if we can get the pump doing it. If the pump starts to overheat, which I'm expecting, it's the impeller. I guess it's rubbing when it gets too warm. Yeah, so here goes the Phantasm powder. Like I said, it's a little loosely saying powder. Here's all the hops. Talk about maximum contact. There we go. Let's see if we can get the pump doing this. Open this part up. A lot of air. Nothing else will bubble it to death. Okay. Yeah, I think that's good enough. Let's come around here. Turn on our pump. Actually, you know what? Let's see if I can do this. I'm gonna manually stir it until we get down to around 200, and then I'll kick the pump on. I'm not putting quite as much heat on it. Okay, let's try it. There we go. Whirlpool's going. We'll see how long it lasts before it shuts down. I can hear the impeller hitting. It's what they're saying is when it gets too hot, it actually rubs. It's a lot easier though than me doing it manually. There we go. That's a nice looking whirlpool going. We've only got about another 5 minutes to go, so we're doing good. It's just the agitation. It doesn't have to be like crazy, you know, like a tiny bowl down. Whirlpool's still going. We got 1 minute. Just had to get it below 200. I heard the impeller hitting a few times. There it goes again. It's a little rub. little rub. See where we're at on temp before I drop it. 183, we have dropped significantly. And that's it. Okay, here we go. Let's kick on the cold water. As I said, we'll leave the whirlpool going because that's agitation. I won't bore you. We're gonna let this cool down. If it doesn't get cool enough, I'll pull down the anvil kettle, add some ice to it, use the sump pump, recirculate, and get it down to pitching temperature. Let's get ready to pitch some yeast. Okay, so we had a really good day. I got an early start. I'm done before 2 p.m. That's awesome. Got a lot of cleaning. That'll take me past 2 p.m. easily. But yeah, we did a good day. My boil offs are getting closer and closer. I'm dialing them in, which is really nice without having to just do, boil off water and mock boils. But instead of a 1.069 final gravity, I'm at 1.076. I'm not gonna dilute it because my numbers are pretty close. It is 82.1 brewhouse efficiency, plus or minus, I'm gonna say plus or minus almost a whole point, either direction because of just the sheer amount of hop matter. I had a major problem with the hop matter trying to get a good gravity reading. Currently the tilt's sitting at 1.078. It is sitting in a little bit of a froth, so I'm not too worried about that. I used the Anton Pars. I had a problem initially. I finally got very clear wort without a lot of hop matter or particulates in it, and that gave me a solid 1.076. So I'm going with 1.076. Well, if it gets down to a final gravity of 1.018, seems quite high. I'm hoping it's gonna be much lower, but that's what Beersmith is telling me, and I'm hoping it's wrong. So at 1.016, that would put us at 8%. I'm hoping for a drier beer, although that'll probably put me well over the 8%. Wasn't shooting for that, really wanted the low 7s. That's okay. First time using the yeast, first time going crazy with that amount of hops and the Phantasm. And the Phantasm, they say, adds a little bit of residual sugar, but it's something like 1.00 something. It's stupid low, I'm not worried. Due to this though, I am gonna double pitch or pitch twice as much yeast. It's already separating, and you can see the majority is yeast or yeast slurry with a little bit of leftover liquid from doing the 2 starters that I separated and dumped into one. I did add Clarity Firm. I am shooting for a rather clear beer, even though I know it's probably gonna be hazy as hell. The IPA is looking hazy, but everything's separating out. I don't want any particulates, you know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna go ahead and pitch the yeast. I say that as I go looking for my mirror. I did finish way before 2, but I'll be here well after 2 cleanings, so it was a great day as far as timing goes. It's got a nice smell. It's a little different than what I'm used to, though. A lot of biscuity. It's like tropical and biscuity. I know, it might sound weird, but hey, it's what I smell. Still tropical and biscuity. So, gotta clean that. I like it when I set that down on a stainless steel table. Instantly, this thing sticks, which is funny because I know there's different types of stainless. My other table, it doesn't stick as well. Here it sticks very well. It tells me it's probably not as good. I don't know. As long as it holds up, I'm fine. So currently this thing is sitting at, I think, 69 Fahrenheit. I have my my kegerator, which is doing my lagers for right now, sitting at about 55, 56, I can't quite tell. We're gonna try to ferment this around the 62, 64, probably peak up around 65. That's the max. I am gonna let it go warm and go down to the cold so we can get a good yeast production. That's one of the little tricks out there that I remember I shared with you a while back from White Labs is you can take a lager, start it around 68, 70, and then start tapering it down. And you should get enough yeast production at that warmer temp and get it down smoothly, but as you get it down, you'll keep from getting the off flavors and you won't have to have twice as much yeast. So I just want to make sure it ferments out properly. So we'll go ahead, seal this up. I am going to put it under pressure. I don't want a lot of pressure because I really want to get the hops to really pop. So I'm going to put it at about 5 PSI, just enough to put some mild pressure on it. Yes, I am going to open it and put the dry hops in there. I am not putting it around the sides. It's 6 ounces of dry hops. I'll tell you what those are later, like I did in the ale video. It's the same. If you see the ale video before you see the lager video, you'll know what dry hops I'm using. And it's not all the same that we used in the boil. A few are, but not the majority. So let's go ahead and get this on fermentation. Don't forget to like, subscribe, keep sharing. Definitely appreciate the sharing. I'll update you once we get the Riptide repaired, and we'll test it out, and hopefully everything will be hunky-dory. So cheers.